In this video, we'll be focusing on nouns. We'll be explaining common nouns, proper nouns, countable versus uncountable nouns, and, while they're not nouns themselves, articles. Let's get right into it. We'll begin with common nouns. Nouns are a person, place, thing, or idea. Examples of common nouns that fall under person would be a friend, teacher, sister, doctor, etc. Common place nouns would be school, home, the store, or hospital. Things would be a letter, a bulldozer, a ball, or a dog, for example. And ideas are usually defined as non-tangible nouns. Examples could be bravery, love, anxiety, or a birthday. It's important to note that common nouns are only capitalized when they start a sentence. Otherwise, they're written out in lowercase. Now let's take a look at proper nouns. Proper nouns, like common nouns, are a place, person, thing, or idea, but this time they're specific names of those things. For example, for people, instead of saying the teacher, as a proper noun you'd say Mrs. Smith. Other examples of proper nouns are Emily Dickinson, William Shakespeare, or Isaac Newton. Unlike common nouns, proper nouns are always capitalized, no matter where they appear in the sentence. But proper nouns aren't just people. A place can be a proper noun too. For example, New York, Austria, North America, or Cairo. As you can see, city, country, and continent names are considered proper nouns, but so are geographical features and landmarks. For example, Mount Everest, the Amazon River, the Eiffel Tower, or the Statue of Liberty. Believe it or not, even things and ideas can be proper nouns. The categories blend together a bit more here, but some examples include movie, book, or song names like Lord of the Rings or Let It Be, events or holidays like the Olympics or Thanksgiving, religions like Judaism and Islam, and brands like Lego and Coca-Cola. Now that we've covered common nouns and proper nouns, let's now explain countable versus uncountable nouns. Even if you've never heard of these concepts, it's likely something you know naturally. Put simply, countable nouns refers to nouns you can count. For example, 3 cats, 6 cars, 8 countries, etc. Uncountable nouns, in contrast, refers to nouns you can't count, such as water, energy, or homework. Instead of saying, I have 3 homeworks, for example, we'd say, I have 3 homework assignments, or some other quantifier. In fact, we never add a plural s when discussing uncountable nouns. For example, unless in very specific contexts, we don't say waters, energies, or homeworks. When we want to discuss these in the plural, we add a unit of measurement, glasses of water, units of energy, or homework assignments. Another thing to take into account with countable and uncountable nouns is the words many and much. Although they mean the same thing, we use many when discussing countable nouns and much when discussing uncountable nouns. For example, I have many cats, as opposed to I have much cats, or I have so much homework instead of I have so many homework. Another grammar point with countable versus uncountable nouns is fewer versus less. This is a mistake that even native speakers will make sometimes. Fewer is used when discussing countable nouns, and less is used when discussing uncountable nouns. So we'd say, I have been to fewer countries than you, but I have less energy than her. Now that we've got an idea of different types of nouns, let's take a quick look at words that will often precede nouns. Articles. Articles include a, an, and the, and these words help clarify if we're talking about something general or specific. A and an are what's known as indefinite articles. This means they're used when we're talking about general things. For example, if we were to say, I'm in the mood to read a book, it means you don't have a specific book in mind and are open to suggestions. A and an function in exactly the same way, the only difference being a is used before a word beginning with a consonant sound, while an is used before a word beginning with a vowel sound. So we'd have a submarine, a giraffe, but an apple or an igloo. Note that this rule isn't dependent on whether or not the word starts with a consonant or vowel, but rather whether it starts with a consonant or vowel sound. Because of this, we'd have a unicycle, for example. Even though unicycle starts with a vowel, it starts with a consonant sound, U. Likewise, we'd have an hour. Even though the word hour starts with a consonant, it starts with a vowel sound, ow. The, in contrast, is a definite article. We use the when talking about specific things. For example, if you were to say, I'm in the mood to read the book, you're talking about a specific one that was already previously mentioned. We use the before words beginning with both vowels and consonants, so there's nothing to take into account there. Let's connect this now to countable and uncountable nouns. With countable nouns, we use both indefinite and definite articles, depending on if we're referring to something specific or general. For example, we could say either I see a boy or I see the boy, depending on if we're talking about a specific boy or not. With uncountable nouns, however, we only use definite articles. So while we can say, I see the water, or I did the homework, it's incorrect to say, I see a water, or I did a homework. Of course, if we add a measure word or a unit, we can use indefinite articles, as these articles are now referring to the measure word and not the uncountable noun itself. For example, we could say, I see a bottle of water, or I did a homework assignment, as a now connects to bottle and assignment, respectively, instead of the noun water or homework itself. And that wraps up our review of nouns. We've reviewed common nouns, proper nouns, countable versus uncountable nouns, and articles. Stay tuned for our next video where we'll go over verbs and keep practicing.